Okay, welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals virtual hearing. Before we go on the record, I just want to clarify some matters. Because of ongoing health concerns, we are holding these hearings via video conference with the agreement of both parties. If you are having technical difficulties and you can't log back in, you can call in the telephone number that was provided earlier. The hearing will be live streamed to the public, and the audio of this hearing will be transcribed and posted on our website. Because this hearing is being live streamed to the public, please do not show your exhibits on the screen. Additionally, do not use the chat function with Webex. To minimize confusion during the hearing, we ask that participants mute their microphone when they're not speaking. Speak slowly so the court reporter can transcribe what is stated. Also, please state your name before you speak and avoid talking over other participants. If there are any questions during the process, such as those regarding technical issues, you may ask me at any time. And you can also contact Claudia Lopez for assistance. First, I want to note that there's been a panel substitution. Jeff Angija has been substituted by Judge Josh Aldrich. Secondly, I just want to confirm with appellant Mr. Hausch, so is there no witness Vivian Hu now?
Yes, Your Honor. Vivian Hu, witness, has decided not to appear.
Okay, so she was being she required a Mandarin translator, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So would it be appropriate if we dismissed the Mandarin translator at this time?
Oh, sure.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, that would be correct to do.
Okay. Mr. Tang, I believe, is the Cantonese translator, and the Mandarin translator is Mr. Tai?
Yes.
So Mr. Tai, because the witness is not going to be showing up, you can disconnect.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Because I have to, I think I should, I'm going to translate to Shirley Sun, and is Paul Chan here as well?
Yes, they are both on the same phone call.
Okay. Perhaps Mr. Tang can translate the instructions I gave earlier to them right now. I just want to confirm that, okay, Mr. Tang, could you please tell the Ms. Sun and Mr. Chan that they should pause to allow you to translate? Mr. Tang, can you please unmute your mic?
OK， 好嚟。首先咧係法官咧係想俾一啲指示係各位嘅，咁咧就係首先就係話係唔係講嘢嘅時候咧，請你將嗰個係你個麥高風咧係去轉去靜音啊，就係嚇 OK。
And can you tell them to please mute their microphones when they're not speaking?
即係話你如果唔係講嘢嘅時候咧，記住一定要將個係麥高風咧係將佢係靜音嘅轉咗嚇。
Thanks. And then if they have trouble with technical difficulties and they can't log back in, they can just call in using the telephone number that was provided earlier.
係啦，咁如果你喺個過程裏邊遇到係一啲技術性嘅問題嘅話咧，你事先咧係曾經係俾過一個電話號碼你嘅，請你咧就用嗰個電話號碼咧係打上去嚇。
And in addition, the hearing will be live streamed to the public, and the audio will be transcribed and posted on our website.
仲有就係話今次呢個聽證咧係會係實時咁樣咧係轉播去網上嘅，咁嗰個係音頻咧會係之後咧會係擺喺個網站度嘅。
And also, because the hearing is being live streamed to the public, please do not show any exhibits on the screen. And don't use the chat function within Webex.
既然係會係實時咁樣係轉播啦，係公眾可以睇到咧，請你咧係唔好將文件咧係喺呢個係透過呢個平台咧係分享出去，亦都請你唔好用呢個係嗰個聊天室個功能咧去寫嘢嘅。
Thank you. Do they have any questions?
係多謝大家，大家有冇咩疑問咁咧？
冇。
No question.
Okay, thanks. And then, thank you, Mr. Tang. And then, Mr. Hausch, I just want to confirm that the translator will be used only during the testimony and Q&A session.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
Okay. Before we go on the record, I just want to confirm the issue and a couple other things. The issue, I believe, is whether adjustments are warranted to the determined measure of tax. Mr. Hausch, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
And CDTFA, is that correct?
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. That is correct.
Thanks, Ms. Jimenez. Secondly, I want to confirm the exhibits. Appellant provided exhibits 1 through 7, and CDTFA provided exhibits A through I. Is that correct? And are there any objections, Mr. Hausch, to that?
That is correct, and no objections.
And Ms. Jimenez, is that correct? And do you have any objections?
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. That is correct, and we have no objections.
Thank you. Just quickly, I'll just recap the order of the hearing. Mr. Hausch, your presentation we gave you 90 minutes. And after that, there'll be questions by the OTA judges, and CDTFA has the right to question the witnesses. After that, CDTFA can do their presentation for 15 minutes, and the judges can ask questions. After that, Mr. Hausch, you'll have 10 minutes to do a rebuttal. With that, does anyone have any further questions before we go on the record? No? Okay. We are now on the record in the Office of Tax Appeals oral hearing for the appeal of Sun Enterprises, Inc., case number 190344415. The date is Tuesday, July 28th, 2020, and the time is approximately 1:22 p.m. This hearing was originally scheduled for Sacramento, California. However, due to ongoing health concerns, we are holding these hearings electronically with the agreement of all the parties. My name is Josh Lambert, and I am the lead administrative law judge for this hearing. And my co-panelists today are Andrea Long and Josh Aldrich. Before we proceed, I will swear in the interpreter, Mr. Tang, at this time. Mr. Tang, could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Wei Kun. Last name spells T like Tom, A-N-G. First name W-E-I-K-U-E-N.
Thank you. Briefly, what are your qualifications as a Cantonese interpreter?
I have been a interpreter for 20-some years. And I hold a bachelor degree in Chinese language and literature, which I got from the Chinese University of Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will accurately translate from English into Cantonese and from Cantonese into English to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you. Now I'd like to have all the parties introduce yourselves. Mr. Hausch, could you introduce yourself, and appellants, could Ms. Sun and Mr. Chan introduce yourself?
Thanks, Your Honor. Chris Hausch, attorney and enrolled agent representing the appellant.
And I believe we have Ms. Sun and Mr. Chen, is that correct?
Chen, 陳女士同埋孫先生係介紹自己。
我叫Shirley Sun。
My name is Shirley Sun。
我叫 Paul Chan。
My name is Paul Chan。
Thank you. And CDTFA, can you please introduce yourselves?
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. Good afternoon. I'm representing the CDTFA.
I'm Jason Parker, also with the CDTFA.
Sorry about that. This is Christopher Brooks, and I'm tax counsel for CDTFA.
Thank you. The issue in this appeal is whether adjustments are warranted to the determined measure of tax. Appellant, do you agree that this is the issue?
Yes, Your Honor, we agree this is the issue.
And CDTFA, do you agree that that is the issue?
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. We agree that is the issue.
Thanks. Appellant provides exhibits 1 through 7. CDTFA provides exhibits A through I. Appellant, do you have any objections?
Chris Hausch for appellant, we have no objections.
And CDTFA, do you have any objections?
I have no objections.
Okay, then I will enter those exhibits into the record. Just to confirm the order of the hearing, Mr. House, you'll have 90 minutes. During that time, there will be witness testimony of Ms. Sun and Mr. Chan, and I will swear them in before they talk. And then there will be questions by the OTA judges, and CDTFA may question the witnesses. After that, CDTFA has 15 minutes, after which there will be questions, and then appellant's rebuttal, which is 10 minutes. So Mr. House, before the witnesses swear in, you can let me know before they testify and I can swear them in. So at this time, Mr. House, you will have the opportunity to explain your position. Starting now, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The taxpayers, Sun Enterprise, Inc. runs a Chinese-style restaurant, and they have been running this business for many years. When the CDTFA performed its audit, the audit period of July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016 included a period where the restaurant had been burglarized and had its credit card machine tampered with on 2 separate occasions, and their point of sale system for their computers had been also burgled in 2015. As such, when the auditor reviewed the paperwork of the restaurant and did a check of the software related to the restaurant, it found that for the period of 2015 and 2016 that had access to the computers, that there was no changes, all the records were in proper order, and that the sales tax was properly reported. But because they could not go back and read the software information in the point of sale computer, the CDTFA, using Riley B as a way of trying to go and impugn that there can be some way to go and say that the taxpayers' records are not sufficient from having just the printed reports, determined that the adjustment of amount of cash transactions that occur after the credit card machine had been tampered with, that same cash percentage should be applied to all of the past periods, even though no bank record reflects more cash, no tax return reflects more cash, and no other record reflects more cash in the periods prior to the break-ins. The state is attempting to go and say that they need only a bare whiff of not being able to look at a document as an excuse to go and deny the accuracy of all other records. This is an extensive revision of what the findings are in Riley B that says that if the documents are not trustworthy, then the state can go and use whatever other methods to come up with a percentage to determine the accurate element. The state cited the federal tax return of 1 year as having additional income on the Schedule C of the return, but that additional income is actually the amount of sales tax reported as part of the gross receipts on the federal return, which then has a deduction for that sales tax to come out. Again, none of the other items that the state has reviewed showed any variance, and the state has agreed that for the periods after the break-in, that the records are accurate and correct and no changes proposed for any period post break-in. The state wants to go and make it where they can use any idea that they can conceive of to then create additional taxes on the business owner. The state brought up in one writing that they saw a notation of early 2012 in the refurbished point of sale computer that the company used. We have contacted the company that provided that point of sale computer, and they stated that the traditional testing period when they had refurbished the machine, they enter in July of 2012 to run sample tests to see if the machine is working properly. Unfortunately, they provided that to us too late to be able to provide as direct evidence. The restaurant has maintained accurate records to the best of its ability, throwing out only paper records when there was an infestation that required them by the health department to toss the original paper receipts. The computer records that were reviewed, which are done on a monthly report, the CDTFA's only argument of that those records were not accurate is a desire to go and say that cash to credit card ratios for the restaurant should have stayed the same after a known break-in that influenced the credit card machines. The taxpayers have continued to go and operate everything properly. At this time, I would like to go and have the owners of the restaurant explain the situation regarding the break-in at their restaurant.
Okay. Mr. Tang, can you please translate the following to the witnesses?
Okay. Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry.
Can you please translate this?
Oh,係接住落去咧，係請呢個係餐廳嘅東主咧，係you mean okay,
Yeah.
please go ahead, please go ahead.
I'm gonna have them swear in now. So
好啦，而家係準備係要作證嘅人咧，就準備係要宣誓下。
Okay, first we'll do Miss Sun. Miss Sun, can you please raise your right hand?
首先係孫女士嚇，請你係舉起你右手。
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
你是否願意咧係嚴正聲明咧係你接住所作嘅證詞咧係將會係所有嘅事實嘅全部而且喺事實以外係冇其他嘢嘅。
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. And for Mr. Chan, can you please raise your right hand?
然後請係陳先生嚇，請你舉起右手。
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
你是否願意係嚴正聲明或者係確認呢？係你將會講係出事實同埋事實嘅全部，而且喺事實嘅以外咧係唔會加任何嘅嘢。
我願意。
I will.
Thank you. Mr. House, please proceed.
Thanks, Your Honor. Shirley, can you tell us how long you have been operating the business?
Sherry，你可唔可以講一講咧？係你呢個生意咧係已經係運營咗幾耐
11年。
For 11 years.
How long have you been using a point of sale system to record your sales?
你喺銷售過程用呢種機器啊係已經係幾耐啦？我唔知係咩嚟嘅。
都係11年，由開始到而家。
I started using it right from the beginning, so for 11 years.
Can you describe to us the events in 2015 that affected your point of sale system?
你可唔可以形容一下喺2015年發生嘅事情咧，影響到你呢個係銷售呢個機器㗎
？2015年我哋有客人入嚟，有搗亂我哋個餐館，同埋有老鼠好犀利，成個 shopping mall 咧都係有呢個鼠疫問題，咁個鼠患啊應該係叫，咁所以我哋啲機咧嗰啲網線咧成日都係有問題，咁信用卡亦都曾經被信用卡公司話客人投訴，懷疑佢個資料喺我哋餐館度流失，咁所以
I think maybe she should, Mr. Ting, can you please tell her to pause?
你需要停一停法官話係你要停一停俾我嚟譯咯，So let me try to interpret what she said moments ago. In year 2015, we have a lot of issues, including we have fifth break-in and vandalization, the problem, and within the mall, the bigger mall, and also in our restaurant, there was rat infestation, and a major issue within the whole shopping mall there. In addition, we also have network cable problems. We also were notified by the credit card company that there were some customers complaining about possibility of a leakage of their credit card information.
OK， 頭先我講咧嗰個鼠疫咧，佢都有直接影響到鼠患，影響到我哋個網絡，所以因為啲線成日斷啊，咁呢個同係一件事，同埋一樣嘅嘢。
The rat infestation that I mentioned moments ago had an impact on how well we can maintain the network, and because the rat oftentimes bite on the cable, and as a result, we lose internet connection.
Mr. House, I believe you're on mute.
I apologize. During that time that you were experiencing internet problems, were you having more people paying cash than credit card?
喺嗰段你覺得個收銀機出現問題嘅時候，係咪會出現呢個情況，就係啲客人咧係支付現金咧係比信用卡係多咗咧？
係嘅。
That's right.
For how long were you experiencing more people paying cash than credit card?
啲客人係俾現金特別係多過呢個信用卡咧，呢段咁嘅期間總共係有幾耐咧？
應該都有咗2-3年都係咁，因為
I believe it persists for a period of 2 to 3 years.
In the periods of 2014 and beginning of 2015, were all sales recorded in the point of sale system?
喺2014至到2015年年初呢段期間咧，所有嘅銷售係咪都係喺個POS 呢個係銷售嘅機器裏邊咧係有記錄嘅咧？
係。
Yes.
How often did you receive reports from your POS system of the sales?
你係有幾常會係收到一次由嗰個係記錄系統咧係發俾你嘅係呢個銷售記錄咧
1個月一次。
Once a month.
When you were going through the CDTFA audit, did you provide those monthly reports to the state's auditor?
當你係呢個 CDTFA 咧係加州嗰個係稅務同埋收費管理局咧，同佢係有討論呢個稅務嘅時候咧，你有冇將你每一個月收到呢啲咁嘅收入嘅報告咧，係提交俾佢哋咧？俾係即係話州政府嘅呢個核數員啊？
係有嘅。
Yes, I did.
Did you make any adjustments to the records that were given to the state auditor?
喺交俾呢個州政府嘅核數員將呢啲咁嘅記錄俾佢嘅時候咧，你有冇喺上邊係做一啲係改動咧，一啲調整？
冇。
No.
Is there any way to make a sale at your restaurant without bringing the information up in the point of sale system?
喺你餐廳裏邊咧係如果係要做一個交易嘅話咧，有冇可能咧係唔用呢個嗰個收銀機嗰個 POS 嘅系統咧係可以係做成一個交易咧可唔可以咁咧？
唔可以。
No, that's not possible.
Do you at this time continue to use the point of sale system that you received in 2015?
你係咪仲係繼續用緊呢個同一個係2015嗰陣時用嗰個同一套嘅銷售點POS 系統咧？
係嘅。
Yes.
Have you had any problems with the reports or information that you received from the point of sale system?
由呢個係銷售系統裏邊咧 ，POS 系統裏邊係發俾你啲報告咧，有冇出現係問題你係收唔到咁樣咧？
冇。
There has been no issue about receiving report from the system.
Describe for us the process that you use to have your sales tax returns prepared.
你形容下嗰個過程咧，你係準備呢個係報稅咧、銷售稅嘅時候咧，係你點樣做
嘅？會響嗰個 POS 嗰度印咗成個月個數據，咁然之後會會話俾我哋個會計，咁由會計再幫我哋報上銷售稅嘅。
For sales tax reporting, first of all, I print out monthly data from the POS system, and then I turn over these data to our accountant. Then the accountant will handle from this point onward to report all the numbers to the authority.
At this time, I have no further questions for the witness, but will reserve for rebuttal questions if necessary.
咁暫時就要問證人咧，就係已經係問到呢度為止。咁一陣間如果係對方係有呢個係盤問啊之後咧，咁咧係佢可能再問都有可能。
Okay, that's fine. Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, at this time, I will end my presentation, and any other items I'll save for rebuttal.
Okay. Thank you. I'm now going to ask CDTFA if they have any questions for the witnesses.
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor. We have no questions for the witness.
佢話係冇問題，係需要問呢個係證人嘅。
Thank you. And Judge Long, do you have any questions for the witnesses?
This is Judge Long. I just have one question. So did the news of the robbery affect your business in other ways? Did you lose any customers, or did that, did business just, the only effect was the increase in cash sales?
呢個係Long 係法官嘅，淨係需要問一個問題。佢問題咧就係話嗰個失竊咧係造成嘅影響咧，除咗係令到係更多係客人係用現金嚟係俾錢係減少用咗信用卡之外咧，仲有冇係其他嘅影響咧？有冇譬如話係呢個係少咗客人啊咁樣咧？
又冇少咗客人，因為嗰段時間我哋係做緊promotion， 反而客人應該係有 keep 住，同埋我哋係老人家客人會多。
Hey, I don't feel, don't sense that there were any loss of customers because of what happened. In part because we were doing promotions around that period of time. And in addition, a big chunk of our clientele were senior restaurant goers.
Okay, this is Judge Long. Thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time.
係啦，Long 法官話係佢冇需要再問其他問題。
And Judge Aldrich, do you have any questions?
Hi, this is Judge Aldrich. Yeah, I had a couple questions. Could you describe what you mean by a break-in?
正話你好似提到係有係啲係咪有人係曾經係叫閂門係叫開入去咧？定係我講錯啊？即係入咗嚟餐廳。
入咗餐廳打爛門。
Our door was broken. So indeed there was a burglary.
Okay, so there was physical evidence of that somebody had entered without your authorization.
你意思係話係有呢個係實質嘅證據顯示係有人咧係未得你許可嘅時候咧係叫門入咗去呢個係餐廳裏邊係咪？
係嘅。
That's right.
And did you file a police report?
呢件事你有冇係去報警啊？係呢、個向警察咧係有去係報警咧？
我哋因為咧佢係凌晨入咗嚟嘅，咁我哋係返到嚟先至睇到玻璃爛咗，再報警。但係差人佢話冇人受傷就冇嚟到嘅。
We did contact the police. The incident happened in the middle of the night. Must be the very early hours of the morning. We didn't know that until we step our foot into the restaurant the next morning. And when we contacted the police said that since there was no one got injured, there's no need for them to come to our restaurant.
Okay. And who paid for the door to be replaced?
咁邊個人支付錢咧？係修理翻或者係更換嗰個係壞咗個門咧？
係我哋。
We ourselves pay for the repair.
Okay, so insurance was not involved?
你輸係保險公司係你冇聯絡保險公司要求佢係賠翻錢俾你啊？
冇。
So we did not alert the insurance.
Okay. And how did she come to know that customers were experiencing issues with their credit card information being appropriated? Was that communicated somehow by Heartland?
你點知道咧？係話啲客人咧係投訴話佢哋嘅信用卡咧係有人咧係盜用啊咁樣咧？係咪 Heartland 係咪個信用卡公司啊？係講俾你知嘅咧？
係嘅，因為 Heartland 佢直情停咗我哋話有唔記得有幾多日係有一段時間係冇得用信用卡。
Indeed, it was. We were notified by Heartland. To the extent Heartland actually stopped our system from using credit card for a short period of time.
But was the notification in writing, like an email or a letter?
佢通知你嘅方式咧係咪書面㗎？發電子郵件啊，或者係發信啊咁樣，又係用咩方式通知你嘅咧？
打電話。
They telephone us.
And what policy, if any, did she have regarding the payments of credit cards during the audit period? So was there a threshold amount, for example, below $25, cash only, more than $25, credit card okay? Well, so what was the policy?
你喺嗰個當局係核理數嗰段期間咧，你接受呢個顧客係用信用卡咧，有冇一個門檻嘅？即係價碼究竟係舉例子，譬如話有啲餐廳係25蚊以下只可以俾現金啊，25以上就可以用信用卡啦。你哋餐廳係個政策係點嘅？
我哋餐廳咧就冇話係實質，不過咧佢哋做工嘅人員有時即係經理嗰度都會即係因為我哋啲單唔係好大，有時佢哋都會可能會講話25蚊以上碌卡啊咁。即係如果客人sorry 我講埋，如果客人冇錢嘅話，我哋都係會收卡。
My understanding is that the manager has no firm threshold for how much sales, how much purchase would be eligible to use credit card payment. but in general, I think they would say if somebody asked them is the line is at $25. But in some cases, some customers came saying that they don't carry enough cash. Oftentimes, the manager would allow them to use credit card.
Okay. I don't have any additional questions, so I'm going to turn back over to Judge Lambert.
係呢個係法官話佢問完啦，咁咧就將時間交翻俾呢個係呢個係主持人嚇。
Thank you. I guess my question is just kind of along the same lines. Just is there any evidence that the credit card machine or the POS system was breached at all, or that there was a robbery, like a news report or anything? Like, is there any evidence that we can look at to see that there actually was a breach of the credit card system or a robbery?
係啦，呢個係法官都係問翻類似嘅問題，就係話有冇啲乜嘢嘅實質嘅證據咧，係顯示你個係銷售點 POS 嘅機器咧，或者係嗰個係信用卡嘅系統咧，係被搞過嚇，證明到係有係盜竊係有人入過你餐廳咁樣新聞嘅報告啊，或者係警察嘅報告啊等等嚇，有冇啲實際嘅證據咧？
新聞冇，因為個事唔係好大。
件事唔係好大，件事唔係好大。
唔係，因為唔係應該係話個損失點？因為冇人睇受傷之類咧，咁好似係因為我哋不在場，個賊入嚟嗰陣時候，所以我哋係遲咗到我哋發現嗰陣時候先開門前先去報警咯。
I don't think there is any news report that I can produce. But the main thing was that there was no one who got injured by this break-in, and we didn't discover it until we appear at the restaurant the next morning.
我可唔可以補充一句，就係電腦公司應該可以證明啦，因為我哋嗰段時間係真係用唔到 credit card， 咁佢哋可以證明喎。
Let me add that during that period of time, we were unable to use the credit card system to accept customer payments, and so that the computer companies should be able to support our information.
If there was no news reports, then I'm wondering how the public became aware that there was a credit card breach.
佢話如果係冇新聞報告嘅話，公眾點知道咧係喺你個餐廳有信用卡咧係有被話啲會侵入咁樣嘅問題咧？
其實係我哋客，因為我哋收唔到即係信用卡唔用嗰陣時候，我哋係同啲客講，我哋嗰段時間咧只可以收現金，所以啲客人咧係知道問我哋點解用唔到嗰個信用卡，咁我哋係話嗰個信用卡公司停咗我哋，咁佢哋就話即係知道可能我哋個信用卡公司俾人哋整破壞我或者俾叫做咩私人資料俾人哋盜用咁，係信用卡公司打俾我哋話俾我哋知嘅。
I think it's more likely because during that period of time, we were unable to use the credit card system to accept payments, and so our customers, when we explain the situation to them, they alert something has happened to the system. And as for ourselves, we got the notification from the credit card company, from the credit card company. Yes.
And how long were they unable to accept credit card payments for?
你哋係冇辦法係接受呢個係信用卡嘅付帳咧，係嗰段期間係幾耐到啊？
我唔係好記得，不過亦都唔係話好長，好似都係唔知，好似一個星期內，還是我呢個唔係好記得。
I am not very positive about my recollection, but I believe it's more or less 1 week. The period lasts for more or less 1 week.
Why were there no guest checks or daily POS reports provided for the older POS system?
點解唔可以係透過一個舊啲嘅 POS 係出銷售嘅系統咧，係提供咧係呢個客人嘅呢個係帳單啊，或者係每日嘅報告咧？
我唔係好明白，再問多次啊？唔
Can
係好明你個問題。
Can you repeat your question? I am not fully, I don't fully understand.
Does she have guest checks for the older, to show her sales for the older POS system? Does she have any, why does she only have monthly POS reports for the older system, but she has more information for the later POS system? Does that make sense? Why does, ask her, does she have guest checks or other evidence to show sales besides the monthly POS reports?
係啦，除咗係每一個月咧係會係有呢個係銷售點 POS 嘅報告，每個月一次之外咧，你有冇係存起一啲係客人嘅帳單啊咁樣？由帳單嗰度係唔係一樣應該計到咩？
每人客人帳單有，我哋每一日都有。咁嗰陣時候都係存起嚟嘅，但係就係因為老鼠疫、鼠患啦，佢哋咬爛晒啲單啦，係嗰陣時我哋冇辦法，因為係個好多老鼠屎同埋啲糞便，我哋要將啲單抌晒。
Yes, we do keep guest checks, but unfortunately, because of the rat infestation, lots of these checks were damaged and with rat. Make it very dirty, unsanitary, and as a result, we decided to dispose of all the paper guest checks.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
我嘅法官話要問嘅問題係咁多。
Thank you.
多謝你嚇。
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to CDTFA. You have 15 minutes to give your presentation. And Mr. Tang, you can just mute your mic and we'll just come back to you if we need to later on.
Okay.
Thank you. And CDTFA, you may begin.
All right. Thank you, Judge Lambert. This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Appellant is a corporation operating a full-service restaurant selling Chinese-style food with a location in Fremont, California. This company also holds an active license to sell beer and wine. It has a start date of August 8, 2009, and the audit period for this case is from July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016. The records provided are federal income tax returns for the fiscal year ending 2014 and 2015, credit card payment information from appellant's merchant service providers, bank statements, monthly point of sales reports, and POS data covering the period July 15, 2015 through January 17, 2017. There are no POS sales data made available for the earlier periods from July 1st, 2013 through July 14, 2015. Using federal income tax returns for fiscal years ending in 2014 and 2015, the department performed a markup analysis based on sales and cost of goods sold. The markup for fiscal year ending 2014 was 142%. And the markup for fiscal year ending 2015 was 129%. That's on your Exhibit B, page 37. The Appeals Bureau also did their analysis using the reported sales to the CDTFA instead of the federal income tax returns and computed a markup of 117% for fiscal year end 2014 and 107% for fiscal year end 2015 and 111% for both years combined. You'll see that on your Exhibit E, page 71. The markups for both fiscal years are considered low for a sit-down restaurant, especially one that serves beer and wine. When the department reviewed the monthly POS reports, we observed a substantial difference in cash sales for the earlier period, which is third quarter 2013 through first quarter 2015, when compared to the later period of second quarter 2015 through second quarter 2016. Even though credit card sales remained relatively stable during the audit period, the POS report showed quarterly average cash sales of approximately $97,000 for the earlier period, while it showed a quarterly average cash sales of around $197,000 towards the end of the liability period. The cash amount basically doubled. That is $100,000 in cash difference per quarter, which translates to over $1,000 more in cash per day. I want to give you an example of this drastic jump in cash sales. On Exhibit B, page 33, you will see the total cash column. In first quarter 2015, the cash sale is around $109,000, while in second quarter 2015, the cash sales skyrocketed to around $206,000. That is a $97,000 in cash difference between the two quarters alone. Once again, this is over $1,000 more in cash per day. On the other hand, the POS reflects a quarterly average credit card sales of approximately $362,000 at the beginning of the period and around $379,000 towards the end of the period. It also showed that customer or order counts did not fluctuate significantly throughout the liability period. And you'll see that on your Exhibit B, page 36. The department downloaded the POS data directly from appellant's POS system on January 18, 2017. But like I mentioned, the available sales data only covered periods following July 15, 2015. The 1099 forms were also examined to analyze credit card sales ratio for the liability period. For the earlier quarters, the credit card sales were compared to total sales and established a credit card sales ratio of 79%. For the later quarters, the same analysis was performed, which established a credit card sales ratio of 65.47%. And that will be on your Exhibit B, page 27. The department again observed that the credit card sales ratio for the beginning of the audit period appeared high when compared to the ratio of the later quarters. I want to point out once more that the POS reports did not show any significant increase in customers that would support the apparent sudden increase in cash sales beginning in second quarter 2015. Accordingly, the department decided to verify sales for the earlier quarters. The available POS monthly reports for second quarter 2015 through third quarter 2015 and the POS data for the period fourth quarter 2015 through fourth quarter 2016 were used. The department divided recorded credit card sales by recorded total sales to establish a credit card ratio of 66.65%. And that will be on your Exhibit B, page 26. Reported taxable sales were accepted for the period second quarter 2015 through fourth quarter 2016 because amounts were consistent with the POS sales data and the credit card sales ratio of 66.65% was reasonable for appellant's type of business. However, the reported taxable sales for the earlier periods were not accepted since one, the calculated markup is too low for a sit-down restaurant, especially one that serves beer and wine. Appellant was unable to sufficiently explain the substantial difference in both the amounts of recorded cash sales and the ratio of credit card sales between this earlier period and the later periods after April 1st, 2015. Plus, no POS sales data was made available for this time frame. Therefore, the department establishes audited taxable sales for the earlier periods using the credit card sales ratio method. California imposes sales tax on a retailer's retail sales in the state of tangible personal property, measured by the retailer's gross receipt, unless the sale is specifically exempt or excluded from taxation by statute. That's section 6051. All of a retailer's gross receipt are presumed subject to tax unless the retailer can prove otherwise. That's section 6091. It is taxpayers' responsibility to maintain and make available for examination on request all records necessary to determine the correct tax liability under the sales and use tax law, including bills, receipts, invoices, or other documents of original entry supporting the entries in the books of account. That's section 753 and 754. If the department is not satisfied with a taxpayer's return, the department may compute and determine the amount required to be paid upon the basis of the facts contained in the return or returns, or upon the basis of any information within its possession or that may come into its possession. Section 6481. When a taxpayer challenges a notice of determination, the department has the burden to explain the basis for that deficiency. Where the department explanation appears reasonable, the burden of proof shifts to the taxpayer to explain why the department's asserted deficiency is not valid. Except as otherwise specifically provided by law, the applicable burden of proof is upon the taxpayer to prove all issues of fact by a preponderance of the evidence. That is, the taxpayer must establish by documentation or other evidence that the circumstances it asserts are more likely than not to be correct. Audited total sales for the period third quarter 2013 through first quarter 2015 is calculated by dividing the credit card sales of approximately $2,543,000 by the credit card sales ratio of 66.65%. This resulted in audited taxable sales of approximately $3,816,000. The department then adjusted audited taxable sales by the applicable tax rate of 9% and established audited taxable sales of around $3.5 million. The audited taxable sales amount was compared to reported taxable sales for the same liability period of approximately $2,954,000 and established an unreported taxable sales of approximately $547,000. This can be found on your Exhibit B, page 24. So I want to first address the claim that appellant was not able to provide the POS sales data that was used in the earlier periods as it was damaged during the break-in and replaced. In addition, appellant claimed that it was unable to provide source documents for the POS monthly report, such as the guest check or other documents, because many of the records were destroyed after a rat infestation. And appellants also started a new POS system in 2015 because its previous POS system failed. So the department believes that sales data that was damaged during the break-in and destroyed by rat infestation still exists on the hard drive that stores the POS sales data, as well as the backup drive. All the appellant needs to do is request the information from their POS vendor. Appellant is claiming that the older data in the POS system is not theirs, but there is evidence to support that appellant transferred the original database used since 2012 into the replacement server in 2015. The information file has a registration of July 27, 2012. You will see that on your Exhibit I, page 108. And then if you take a look at the login table, shows most staff accounts were created on August 1st, 2012, and were still in use in 2017. You will see that on your Exhibit I, page 107. If you look at the close shift table, it shows the same usernames were active from August 1st, 2012 through 2017. You will see that on your Exhibit I, starting on page 118. The transaction count by waiter shows the same user or staff with the same names created in 2012 are still consistently processing the majority of the orders in 2015, 2016, and 2017. That would be on your Exhibit I, page 144. So an increase in cash sales at a restaurant business should typically correspond to an increase in customers. In this case, appellant's POS monthly reports show that customer counts remain stable throughout the liability period, while cash sales increased significantly starting second quarter 2015. It is common for restaurants to offer special promotions to generate sales, but there's no evidence that promotion affected customers' choice of payment method. Appellant did not require customer to pay with cash to take advantage of the promotion, as far as my understanding. In fact, when I read Yelp reviews, I noticed that reviewers were stating that appellant was only accepting cash from 2009 to 2010. And then from 2011 through 2014, the appellant started to accept credit cards with a minimum order of between $20 to $25. And that would be on your Exhibit AF, and I found that on pages 79, 80, and 88. There are also reviewer comments that the restaurant would only accept one credit card per table. So it basically discouraged a big party from splitting the bill, so customers had to cross the street to pull out the cash. And you'll see that on your Exhibit F, pages 79 and 83. Now, I did not see these restrictions after 2014. With that said, I would actually expect the cash sales in the earlier period to be higher than the later one. If you look at Exhibit I1, page 145, over 35% of total sales are transactions of $20 or less. And let's not forget, in some cases, customers pay cash for a transaction over that amount. Even the big groups who are splitting their bill ended up paying cash because of the requirement of just one credit card per table during the earlier periods. Appellant also claims that the credit card payment system was breached in 2015 and more customers began to pay cash after a local store reported on that breach. The POS reports show that the credit card sales actually increased by 3.14% from 2014 to 2015. Even though the total number of customer transactions decreased from 144,000 in 2014 to 141,000 in 2015. And you see that on your Exhibit B, page 36. Appellant also asserts that it experienced internet outages during which resulted in an increase in cash sales because the credit card payment system was unable to process those transactions without an internet connection. That it switched internet providers during second quarter 15, and it stopped experiencing in many of the internet connection, right? So the POS report shows that the cash sales increased towards the later period. The quarterly credit card ratio did not change significantly from quarter to quarter. And that would be on your Exhibit B, page 27. The POS monthly report also show a sustained increase in cash sales even after the appellant obtained reliable internet service in second quarter of 2015. You'll see that on your Exhibit B, page 35. So appellant did not provide source documents for its POS reports, and the available POS sales data only covered periods after July 15, 2015. The cash sales substantially increased after April 1st, 2015, while the credit card remained fairly consistent. The calculated reported markup is also low for sit-down restaurant. Appellant has provided several explanations for the apparent increase in cash beginning in second quarter 2015. However, appellant has provided no documentary evidence to support these explanations. The department's audit findings are reasonable and fair. Therefore, we request the appellant's appeal be denied. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. And I'll ask the panel for questions. Judge Long, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. This is Judge Long. So CDTFA just mentioned that the credit card ratio did not change.
Right.
And the number of customers remains steady. I guess this is really a question for appellant, if that's all right. For appellants, do you have any way to reconcile that information based on your assertion that more people began to pay by cash after the robbery?
Yes, Your Honor, the tables were entered into the system almost always as the number of chairs instead of the actual number of customers sitting at the table. So there were more transactions that happened of smaller people, smaller customers sitting at that table. The business, again, cannot go and actually do a sale without running it through the POS system. And although CDTFA is claiming that there was no POS reports provided on the first item on Exhibit B, page 39, is the auditor reporting with his manager how he did get the monthly reports from the POS, going clear from July 2013 through 2016. So they did have it where the number of customers entered into the POS has errors just because it could be 2 people sitting at a table that's meant for 4 and the computer system will show 4 people. But the amount of sale was always recorded into the system, and the information of the amount of sale and items of food was available on that POS system report alongside of what was cash and what was credit card.
Thank you. I don't have any additional questions for either party.
Judge Aldrich, do you have any questions?
Hi, this is Judge Aldrich. Yeah, I have a brief question for the department. So, Ms. Jimenez, you mentioned a couple times that the markup was low for this type of business. Compared to what? Compared to other restaurants with beer or liquor license, or?
Judge Aldrich, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. That is correct. The average restaurant markup, ones that specially serves beer and wine, is going to be around 200%.
And is that for that local area, or are you talking in general for the state?
That is correct. It will be for that area.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question. Ms. Jimenez, you mentioned that the data is there to be accessed for the older POS system. And maybe you could expand upon what that means and what the difference between that data is versus the monthly reports.
Judge Lambert, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. Let me just explain. The monthly point of sales reports, all of those were provided for the audit period. What's missing is the POS data for the prior period from July 2013 through July 14, 2015. As far as the data, those data that's transmitted from their POS system to their vendor, those are stored by their vendor in their hardware. And most of the time, they should also have a backup of that. All they have to do is ask the vendor.
And did you request that they ask their vendor for that data?
We did.
And do you have what is CDTFA's experience or comments on the possibility of the credit card information breach or POS system breach affecting sales on the system?
Right, so if it was breach, the credit card sales would decrease, right? Because their explanation is that I actually have customers who are now paying cash instead of credit card. It actually, the credit card from 2014 to 2015 increased.
Okay, thanks. And I think Judge Aldrich may have a couple more questions.
Yeah, this is actually for the appellant, not for the department. And so if Ms. Sun could reply, I don't know, is she still on the line?
Yes, Your Honor, Ms. Sun is still on the line.
Okay, so I was just wondering if she could briefly describe how tips or gratuity were handled during the audit period.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure. Could she briefly describe how tips or gratuity were handled during the audit period?
孫女士個問題係問你嘅，咁法官係想知道咧係喺嗰個核數嗰段期間咧係佢呢個你餐廳嘅客人嘅 tips 咧係即係啲打賞咧係點樣處理法㗎
？tips 點處理法？係俾啲企台嘅咯。
The tips, of course, would be given to the waitresses or the waiters.
Okay. And then earlier you testified that all sales went through the POS system. I was just wondering who was authorized to void sales or change sales, if anyone?
你較早嘅時候作證咧，話係所有嘅銷售都係經過嗰個係呢個銷售點 POS 嘅機器啦。咁你係咪？但係與此同時，你係咪會有時會授權係將一啲出錯嘅呢個銷售去取消佢咁樣，又或者係喺某啲情況可以係作出改動嘅咧？
淨係客人取消唔要或者冇嚟攞，先至可以取消咯。
Only this happened only when individual customers decided to cancel an order, or they order takeout, but decided they are not going to come. They won't come to pick it up.
Okay, and this question's for Mr. Hausch. So in Exhibit B, page 36 of Exhibit B, I was wondering if you had a comment regarding the auditor's comment where it explains that tips remained constant during the audit period when there was a 25% increase in sales. I was hoping you could help explain that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So Exhibit B, page 36, there's an audit comment that says that tips remained constant during the audit period when there was a 25% increase in sales. Could you help explain that issue or address it?
Okay. While it's saying that the tips income is consistent, and sorry, I'm trying to find the line here. So that. I do apologize, trying to find the exact line that references the tips.
Take your time.
The period that is discussed by the auditor is the periods of 13-14 and then fiscal year 14-15. So those are the periods that were not available by POS. He leaves out the period that was actually able to be reviewed in the POS in his report.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, so I'm going to turn it back over to Judge Lambert.
Okay, thanks. I guess since we're asking appellant questions, I'll just have one more question for the witness. And that is just that CDTFA says that they asked you to request the POS data for the prior period from the POS company. And can you ask them if they asked the POS company for that data?
係問呢個證人嘅，咁咧就係CDTFA 咧就話咧係曾經係向你係提出要求咧，喺冇POS 係資訊嗰啲年份咧，係問你可唔可以向呢個係 POS 公司咧，就係叫佢係重新提供俾你，於是你可以係提交俾呢個 CDTFA 嘅。咁你有冇向呢個POS 公司咧係提出要求咧，係要佢係提供呢方面嘅資料咧？
係有嘅，但係佢哋就係話，因為客人如果冇要求，佢哋係冇幫我哋做嗰個傳底叫做backup， 所以咧連佢哋都冇，所以我亦都唔清楚，原來係有啲響電腦上我真係唔清楚要有啲乜嘢 backup。所以係同電腦公司講咗，但係佢哋都冇嘅。
Yes, I did ask the POS company to supply me with that information, but unfortunately, they said that they did not have it. And they explained that unless individual customers ask them to back up the information, otherwise they won't have backup copies in their system. And I'm not very sure about the possibility of retrieving information from the POS machine itself. I have no idea about any backup within the machine.
我仲可以補充一句，頭先佢講到話，我哋個電腦點解有啲2012年嗰啲到2017年嗰個 file， 我哋係有問過電腦公司，佢嗰啲都有作解釋嘅，係有啲係 manual， 有啲係佢哋要響度係佢哋要響度咧，係俾佢哋要有問題嘅時候，佢可以嚟修理各樣嘢，所以嗰啲佢哋係響系統度係自然有嘅。
I also asked the computer company about any data that we may somehow find within the machine. They reply saying that within the machine there are only manual and also some basic information, so that when a technician need to come to repair the machine, they know how to do it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hausch, please take this time to make your rebuttal. You didn't spend much time in your original presentation, but make a rebuttal like 10 minutes, or if you need a little more time, just let me know. Thanks.
Thanks, Your Honor. The CDTFA has continued to go and say that they did not get any reports about the earlier period, although again, Exhibit B, page 39, specifically states, bank statements, point of sale monthly reports, tax returns, and Heartland statements were all provided of the 2013, 2014, and beginning of 2015 periods that the state is claiming there's no documentation. In regard to the statement that the markup is low for the restaurant, again, when the state reviewed all the information of 2015 and 2016, they found that the information was correct and consistent, that the markup is still the same as in the other periods, and the state alleged no errors in the third quarter 2015 through the end of the audit period. It's only the period that they can't review the POS hardware that the state is alleging any errors are happening in the paperwork. If the numbers of that are in the reporting are consistent of income, and everything else of the standards are consistent, then the fact that their markup is low does not mean that they had a different amount of sales happen in a previous period. And the state obviously does not have the ability to mandate that a markup of a certain percentage should happen, as much as it could be great advice for how to run the business in the future to make more profit. The taxpayer made the efforts to try and get the information that the state wanted for the older periods. But when they are not able to obtain it, when they have become a victim of a crime, to go and then further penalize them by going and saying that the largest number that the state can find a basis to go and compare on should be also paid out as a sales tax on top of that, is a misreading of the situations in Riley B. Riley B and the other cases that I cited in our brief all have where there was a error that was found by the auditors or a blatant misstatement in the documentation, making where the documentation was unreliable. Here, the state is only able to go and say that because it cannot look through the additional hardware, that they want to make conjecture that there must be errors in that report, despite the other evidence that they've received. There is no elements out there outside of that, again, in the standard situation, if there is a break-in, that people are going to increase the amount of cash they use out of business instead of relying on the credit card, and as that then adjusts forward, people feel confident using credit cards again. That amount should not mean that the conjecture is that there must have always been a credit card in the past, and to increase without a real basis the amount of sales that are alleged. In regard to the credit card company information about the breach, as Shirley stated, yes, they received contact from the credit card company. That is documentation that unfortunately we have not received and been able to provide to the state. And unfortunately, evidence instructing about how the credit card company and POS company set up their systems to explain the elements of why there's entries from 2012. Unfortunately, the company provided it to us on Monday, and that makes it where, unfortunately, it was too close to the hearing time to be allowable. But they stated that they traditionally used that date in 2012 as the starting point to run the test entries and to go and use as a start date. We provided the receipt of the refurbished POS system purchase, showing when it was given to the restaurant and when it became active. So the state's allegation that this is just the same POS is inaccurate, and the evidence shows that. At this time, I believe that the evidence that has been provided shows that the information is correct. As the state said, Riley B has as its ruling, that the code hereinbefore quoted clearly contemplates an examination behind books, so to speak, in which the original records, such as purchase invoice, sales slip, cash register tapes, and inventory records may be audited and analyzed. There is no requirement that such audit be restricted to pointing out the falsifications, errors, and omissions, but at the same time, it is supposed to be done on the basis of any information which is in the possession of, or that may come into its possession. What the state is doing in this case is making conjectures based not on any record that it has or that it may obtain, but solely going and trying to find a calculation on which to run a number to come up with a new tax. At this time, I will rest.
Thank you. Judge Long, do you have any final questions?
This is Judge Long. I have no other questions. Thank you.
And Judge Aldrich, do you have any final questions?
I don't have any final questions. Thanks.
Well, if there's nothing further, I'm going to close the record and conclude the hearing. I want to thank each party for coming in today and thank the interpreter for all his help. We will issue a written opinion within 100 days. Thank you. This hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Thank you.